Thank you all for being here today. Now, I want to speak to you about some behaviors we often overlook, behaviors that slowly chip away at who we can become. To reach our full potential, sometimes it's not about what we do, but what we choose not to do. So here are 7 behaviors we need to avoid for a better, stronger version of ourselves. Stop the self-doubt. Now, that's easier said than done, right? Self-doubt is like a shadow that follows us, creeping in when we're about to take a big step, whispering that we're not good enough, not ready, not worthy. It makes us question our talents, our dreams, and sometimes even our own worth. But here's the truth: self-doubt isn't rooted in who we are, it's rooted in who we think we are. And often we're not seeing ourselves clearly. Self-doubt holds us back from opportunities because it tricks us into believing we're not prepared or we don't deserve them. We've all been there, hesitating, second-guessing, or even sabotaging our own efforts before we begin. But we have to understand this, that voice of doubt, the one saying I can't or I shouldn't, doesn't know our potential. That voice is based on past fears or maybe on mistakes or failures that have already come and gone. But if we let it rule us, it becomes a barrier between us and what's possible. And the thing is, self-doubt is relentless. It can find a way to turn even our greatest strengths into weaknesses. It convinces us that maybe we're not as smart as we thought, or as talented, or as capable. But that's all it is, a conviction without proof. The mind is powerful. If we fill it with doubt, it'll only see reasons to hold back. But when we fill it with belief, with courage, it will move mountains. So how do we stop the self-doubt? By confronting it, by recognizing it for what it is, a barrier, not a truth. Every time you find yourself thinking, I can't do this, ask yourself, why not challenge that doubt? Ask yourself, is this true, or is it just fear talking? Because once you recognize that self-doubt is simply fear in disguise, you can start to take your power back. And remember, confidence doesn't mean having no doubt. It means stepping forward in spite of it. It's about being brave enough to try, even if you're unsure. When you feel doubt creeping in, remind yourself of your strengths, of what you've already overcome, of what you've already achieved. Reflect on your victories, both big and small. Let them remind you that you are capable, that you are resilient, and that you can rise above anything holding you back. Self-doubt doesn't define you unless you let it. Believe that you can and watch how life begins to open up. Letting go of the fear of failure is about releasing the grip of something that holds so many of us back from reaching our true potential. Failure can feel final, like a harsh judgment on our abilities, our efforts, even our worth. But in reality, failure is simply part of the journey. It's not a judgment, it's a teacher, shaping us into who we are meant to become. The fear of it, however, is what paralyzes us, keeping us from taking the steps we need to grow. When we're afraid of failure, we stay within the boundaries of what's comfortable, what's familiar. We play it safe, choosing not to take risks that could lead us to something amazing. The irony is that by trying to avoid failure, we often end up failing to make any real progress. Life requires boldness, a willingness to try new things, even if there's a chance we might stumble. Because each stumble, each mistake is a step toward understanding, improvement, and resilience. Without failure, there's no growth, no learning, and no true success. Think of all the times you've held back because you didn't want to risk messing up. Every time you did that, you missed an opportunity not only for success, but for learning and self-discovery. Failure shows us where we can improve, where we can sharpen our skills, where we can learn more about who we are and what we're capable of. When we allow ourselves to fail, we're actually investing in our future potential. People often see success as an unbroken line of wins, but if we look closely at any great achievement, we see setbacks, roadblocks, and failures along the way. Those moments aren't blemishes on success, they're its foundation. Each failure taught a lesson, made someone stronger, and clarified what needed to be done differently next time. So fearing failure is like fearing the very things that make success possible. Embracing the possibility of failure doesn't mean we aim to fail. It means we aim to learn, to try, to grow. It means we know that success is worth the risk. It means we understand that every failure brings us closer to who we're becoming, and that every attempt, whether it works out or not, is a step forward. We might fall, yes, but we can always get back up stronger and wiser than before. When we let go of the fear of failure, we open ourselves up to experiences, to knowledge, to the thrill of chasing after something worthwhile. We become free to pursue our dreams without the weight of what if. We start to focus on what could be, so make the choice to take risks, to learn, to grow, and to fail forward. When we do, we're no longer held back. Instead, we're propelled forward, ready to embrace whatever comes next, knowing that no matter the outcome, we are growing every step of the way. Eliminating excuses means breaking free from the limitations we place on ourselves. Excuses are comfortable. They protect us from taking full responsibility for our actions, our choices, and ultimately our outcomes. They're the stories we tell ourselves to justify why we haven't achieved something or why we're not putting in the effort. But here's the truth: every time we lean on an excuse, we're stepping further away from our goals. Excuses are a way of giving up our power, of handing control of our lives to circumstances rather than owning our ability to change and improve. Think about the common excuses we hear and maybe even say ourselves: I don't have enough time, I'm too tired, I don't have the resources, it's too hard, or I'm just not good at it. These statements may feel true in the moment, but they're often just barriers we build to keep from pushing ourselves. Every single one of us has obstacles. We all have responsibilities, challenges, and hardships, but if we allow those obstacles to dictate our actions, we're never going to reach our full potential. Excuses are deceptive because they make us feel safe and justified. It's easy to blame a busy schedule or a lack of opportunity for why we haven't reached our goals. But when we do that, we're focusing on what's outside our control instead of what we can change. We forget that most of the time we do have a choice to put in a little extra effort, to carve out a few more minutes, to find a way around the problem rather than surrendering to it. Eliminating excuses requires a shift in mindset. It means replacing "I can't" with "how can I?" Instead of focusing on the reason something is difficult, we start looking for solutions, for ways to make it work. This isn't easy. It requires accountability. It requires us to face the areas where we may have been complacent, where we may have let ourselves off the hook. But that accountability is the path to real growth. Because when we take responsibility, we take back control. We move from being passive observers of our lives to active participants, shaping our future instead of letting it be dictated by circumstances. To eliminate excuses is to give yourself permission to try, even if it's not convenient, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's hard. Because success rarely comes from comfort zones, it comes from pushing through discomfort, from doing what's necessary, not what's easy. It means waking up early, staying focused, making sacrifices, and putting in the work even when you don't feel like it. And in that effort, you build resilience, discipline, and a mindset that doesn't let obstacles define you. Every time we choose action over excuses, we prove to ourselves that we're capable of more than we thought. We start to believe in our own strength and our own ability to make things happen. And that belief, that confidence, builds on itself. Excuses keep us small, but commitment, effort, and resilience make us grow. So let go of the excuses and watch what you're truly capable of achieving. Step into your own potential, one choice, one action at a time, without leaning on any excuse to hold you back. Stopping the habit of comparing ourselves to others is one of the most liberating choices we can make. Comparison pulls us away from our unique path, making us feel as though our own progress is somehow inadequate. When we measure ourselves against someone else's achievements, lifestyle, or appearance, we're essentially saying that who we are and what we have isn't enough. This can quickly lead to feelings of envy, insecurity, and even resentment, creating a cycle that can drain our energy and damage our self-worth. But the reality is, every person's journey is different, and comparison is simply not a fair measure of our own potential or success. Each of us has our own story, our own set of experiences, talents, and challenges. What we see of others is often just the surface, a highlight reel, or a polished version of their life. We don't see the hard work, the struggles, the sacrifices, or the setbacks they've endured to get to where they are. Judging ourselves based on this incomplete view is not only unfair, but it also blinds us to our own value. When we're constantly looking at others, we lose sight of what makes us unique. We stop focusing on what we can bring to the table and instead fixate on what we think we're lacking. Letting go of comparison means shifting our focus inward. It means valuing our own journey, celebrating our own milestones, and acknowledging our own growth. It's about setting our own standards of success based on what's meaningful to us, not what looks impressive to others. This isn't about settling or lowering expectations. It's about recognizing that we are enough right where we are. And when we operate from a place of self-acceptance, we become free to grow, to take risks, and to reach our goals, not because we're trying to outshine someone else, but because we're honoring who we are and what we're capable of. This shift also builds confidence and resilience. When we stop comparing, we stop letting someone else's achievements dictate our self-worth. We no longer feel the need to prove ourselves according to someone else's standards. Instead, we develop our own sense of purpose and fulfillment. We become more focused on our own growth and joy rather than measuring it against someone else's timeline or accomplishments. Breaking free from comparison doesn't mean we stop admiring others or learning from them. There's value in observing others' strengths and successes. It can be a source of inspiration and guidance. But the key is to be inspired, not intimidated, to be motivated, not discouraged. When we view others' achievements as possibilities rather than measurements of our own worth, we open ourselves to a much healthier perspective. The only person we should compare ourselves to is who we were yesterday. Each day we have the chance to grow a little more, to learn, to improve, and to become a better version of ourselves. Our journey, no matter how different or winding it may be, is valid and worth celebrating. By focusing on our own progress and purpose, we can find a deep sense of satisfaction and confidence that no comparison could ever provide. Dropping negative self-talk is about recognizing and releasing the unkind words we often direct at ourselves. This inner dialogue, the critical, judgmental voice, is something most people experience, and it often starts so quietly that we hardly notice it. But over time, these small, hurtful comments add up, creating a cycle of self-doubt and lowering our confidence, our resilience, and even our happiness. Negative self-talk is like a silent thief, robbing us of our own potential by convincing us that we're not good enough, not smart enough, or not capable enough. When we allow negative self-talk to persist, we're essentially reinforcing a limited view of ourselves. This voice tends to focus on our weaknesses, our perceived flaws, or our past mistakes. It picks apart our accomplishments, minimizes our successes, and magnifies any failures. It tells us that we're lacking, that we'll never measure up. And the danger is that over time, we start to believe it. We start to act in alignment with this negative image, becoming more hesitant, more self-conscious, and less willing to take the risks that might lead us toward growth and fulfillment. But negative self-talk is not the truth. It's simply a habit, a pattern of thinking that we've picked up, often from past experiences or external influences. Breaking this pattern requires us to become aware of it. When we catch ourselves thinking, "I'm not good at this," or "I'll never succeed," we need to pause and question it. Where did this thought come from? Is it based on reality, or is it simply a fear, an assumption, or a memory from the past? Recognizing that these thoughts are not facts is the first step toward releasing them. Dropping negative self-talk also means learning to replace it with constructive, compassionate self-talk. This doesn't mean ignoring areas where we need to improve. It means encouraging ourselves to grow rather than tearing ourselves down. Imagine how you would speak to a friend who is struggling or doubting themselves. You'd likely offer them kindness, encouragement, and support. Extending that same compassion to ourselves builds resilience and helps us to see setbacks as part of the journey rather than as personal failures. It's about shifting from self-criticism to self-support. Instead of saying, "I always mess things up, try, I'm learning, and every experience is helping me get better," instead of thinking, "I'm just not capable of this." Consider, "I may not have all the answers now, but I am capable of learning and improving." This simple shift in language can change the way we view ourselves and our abilities. It opens up space for growth, for optimism, and for belief in our own potential. Our thoughts are incredibly powerful. They shape our perceptions, influence our decisions, and determine how we approach challenges. By dropping negative self-talk, we free ourselves from an invisible barrier. We begin to see opportunities instead of obstacles, progress instead of setbacks, and strengths instead of flaws. This positive approach doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing to see our own worth and possibility. Changing our inner dialogue requires practice, patience, and awareness, but with time, it becomes easier. We start to develop a kinder, more supportive inner voice that believes in our strengths and abilities. This shift doesn't just make us feel better, it empowers us to pursue our goals, build healthier relationships, and live a more fulfilling life. When we stop speaking negatively to ourselves, we make room for a more confident, compassionate, and resilient self to emerge. Avoiding the urge to give up too quickly is about building the endurance to keep pushing forward, even when the road gets tough. When we set out to achieve something, the initial spark of excitement and motivation can feel unstoppable. But as challenges appear, inevitable hurdles, setbacks, or slow progress, it's natural for our resolve to waver. We may start questioning our abilities or wondering if the effort is worth it. In these moments, the temptation to quit can feel overwhelmingly strong. But giving up too soon often means walking away just when success is within reach. Every worthwhile goal requires resilience and the patience to see it through. It's easy to underestimate just how much time, effort, and adjustment it takes to make progress. We live in a world that celebrates quick results, but real, lasting achievements are often built over time. Imagine all the stories of people who persevered through repeated failures or extended struggles before they finally succeeded. Each of those people faced moments of doubt, times when it would have been easier to throw in the towel. but they pressed on because they believed in what they were doing, even when the payoff wasn't immediately clear. Giving up quickly can become a habit, a pattern of moving from one thing to the next without ever allowing ourselves the time to grow or succeed in any one area. It reinforces a belief that when things get tough, it's a sign to stop rather than a call to persist. But true growth often lies just beyond the discomfort, just past the point where we feel ready to give up. It's in these challenging spaces that we're forced to dig deeper, to develop new skills, to adapt, and to strengthen our character. By resisting the urge to quit, we build resilience and teach ourselves that we're capable of more than we first believed. This mindset shift requires us to see challenges as part of the journey, not as roadblocks. When things go wrong, it doesn't mean that we're failing or that our goals are unreachable. It simply means we're in the process of learning, adjusting, and getting better. Obstacles become opportunities for growth, teaching us lessons that make us more prepared for what lies ahead. Each challenge we overcome strengthens us for the next, and over time, this cumulative resilience becomes one of our greatest assets. Avoiding quick surrender also means acknowledging that progress isn't always linear. Some days we move forward by leaps and bounds, other days it feels like we're taking 2 steps back. But as long as we keep showing up, even if progress feels small, we're building momentum and laying the foundation for future success. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come after extended periods of hard work and patience, after we've put in the time without seeing immediate results. The reward for perseverance isn't just the achievement itself, it's the transformation that happens within us. Every time we choose not to give up, we're proving to ourselves that we're stronger than we knew. We build a sense of pride and confidence that no external validation can provide because we know what we've overcome to get where we are. This inner resilience empowers us not just in one area, but in all areas of life. It gives us the courage to tackle new challenges, knowing that we have what it takes to endure and succeed. When we resist the urge to give up, we allow ourselves the opportunity to realize our full potential. We give our dreams a chance to grow, to evolve, and to become something greater than we might have imagined. We build a life defined by commitment, growth, and resilience rather than by fleeting efforts and abandoned goals. So the next time the path gets difficult, remember that persistence is not about ignoring challenges. It's about embracing them, knowing they're part of the journey towards something worthwhile. Stopping the need for constant approval is a powerful step toward personal freedom and authenticity. For many, seeking approval becomes a deeply ingrained habit, a reflex that dictates actions, decisions, and even self-worth. From an early age, we're taught to seek validation from others, whether from parents, teachers, peers, or society at large. We're often conditioned to believe that our value comes from meeting the expectations of others, and as a result, we mold ourselves into what we think will earn us praise, acceptance, or love. But living this way can create a life that's driven more by external factors than by our own true desires or aspirations. When we constantly seek approval, we're essentially outsourcing our self-worth to others. We let their opinions and judgments determine how we feel about ourselves. This reliance on external validation can lead to a cycle of insecurity as we find ourselves constantly chasing the next compliment, the next thumbs up, or the next affirmation. This cycle is not only exhausting, but it also prevents us from fully embracing who we are. It becomes difficult to make decisions based on what we truly want when we're always second-guessing ourselves in the face of others' opinions. The truth is, approval is fleeting. Even when we receive validation from others, it often doesn't provide lasting satisfaction. The rush of being praised or accepted can be temporary, and we can quickly find ourselves needing more of it to feel good about ourselves again. This creates a dependency on others' opinions, which ultimately limits our ability to grow and act in alignment with our authentic selves. We may even begin to feel like imposters, living a life that feels more like a performance than a genuine expression of who we are. Breaking free from the need for approval starts with understanding that our worth does not depend on anyone else's opinion. We are enough just as we are. The more we can accept and embrace this truth, the less we'll find ourselves swayed by the approval or disapproval of others. It means giving ourselves permission to pursue what matters to us without waiting for external validation. It's about being guided by our own values, passions, and goals rather than by the shifting standards set by those around us. This doesn't mean we become indifferent to the opinions of others altogether. We all value feedback, and constructive criticism is part of growing and improving. But when we stop seeking approval, we no longer let others' opinions dictate our choices. We develop the courage to make decisions based on our own judgment, even if others may not understand or agree with us. This internal validation becomes a much more powerful and sustainable source of confidence because it's rooted in self-acceptance and self-respect, not in the fluctuating judgments of the external world. Stopping the need for approval also encourages us to live more authentically. When we stop editing ourselves for the sake of fitting into others' expectations, we can show up as our true selves, fully embracing our strengths, quirks, and imperfections. This authenticity attracts the right people into our lives, those who appreciate us for who we truly are, not for who we pretend to be. It leads to deeper, more meaningful relationships and a sense of inner peace, because we no longer feel the pressure to put on a facade or live up to someone else's standard. Learning to stop seeking approval is a process that requires courage and self-compassion. It involves being willing to face the discomfort that comes with stepping away from external validation and trusting ourselves. It may also require us to challenge long-held beliefs about our worth and confront the fear of rejection. But over time, the more we embrace our true selves and rely on our own internal compass, the more confident, resilient, and fulfilled we become. We create a life that's driven by our own desires, values, and passions, not by the approval of others. And in doing so, we finally give ourselves the freedom to live the life we were meant to lead. Consistency is the key that unlocks growth, success, and transformation in any area of life. It's the act of showing up day after day, even when the initial excitement fades and the work becomes difficult or monotonous. Many people start strong, full of enthusiasm and optimism, but as the inevitable challenges and setbacks arise, they lose momentum and abandon their efforts. The magic of consistency lies in the ability to persevere through these moments of difficulty, to keep going even when results aren't immediately visible, and to trust that small, steady progress will eventually lead to meaningful change. Consistency requires discipline and commitment. It means setting clear intentions and then sticking to them, even when external factors may not seem to align with our goals. This doesn't mean rigidly forcing ourselves to go through the motions regardless of how we feel, but rather cultivating a mindset where we prioritize long-term goals over short-term distractions or instant gratification. It's the difference between feeling momentarily motivated by a goal and making the daily choice to commit to it, regardless of the external circumstances. What makes consistency powerful is that it compounds over time. Small, repeated actions may seem insignificant in the moment, but when practiced consistently, they build momentum and lead to breakthroughs. Whether it's dedicating a few minutes each day to a new skill, making small improvements to your physical health, or continually working toward a long-term career goal, consistency turns seemingly minor efforts into major accomplishments. Over time, these incremental gains add up, and the progress that once felt distant suddenly becomes tangible. Consistency also creates a sense of trust in oneself. When we make a promise to ourselves and keep it, we reinforce our self-confidence and belief in our ability to follow through. It's not about doing everything perfectly, but about staying committed even when we face obstacles. It's about showing up even when we don't feel like it, knowing that the results will come if we continue to put in the effort, one step at a time. The challenge with consistency often lies in the temptation to give up when we don't see immediate results. Our culture often values quick fixes and instant gratification, but true growth doesn't work on that timeline. It's easy to get discouraged when we're not seeing rapid improvements, but this is where consistency becomes vital. It requires patience, trust in the process, and the ability to stay focused on the long-term vision rather than the immediate obstacles. This is the foundation of discipline, the ability to stay the course and keep working, even when progress feels slow or invisible. Being consistent doesn't mean we have to be perfect. It's not about being rigid or adhering to an unrealistic standard. Life is dynamic, and there will be days when consistency looks different. There will be moments when we miss a step or fall short of our expectations. But consistency is about getting back up, recalibrating, and moving forward again. It's about taking the setbacks in stride and understanding that progress is a journey, not a destination. The key to sustaining consistency is to find a rhythm that works for you, one that is sustainable and adaptable. It's about making habits that align with your goals so seamlessly that they become part of your daily life. Whether it's a morning routine, dedicating time to a project each week, or setting aside time for self-care, consistency means integrating the things that matter into your life so that they no longer feel like burdens, but rather essential, habitual parts of your day. Ultimately, consistency isn't about making huge, grand gestures. It's about showing up and taking action, no matter how small, and trusting that these small efforts, when compounded over time, will lead to significant, lasting change. The most successful individuals don't get there by sporadically exerting effort, but by making steady, consistent strides toward their goals every single day. When we learn to embody consistency, we unlock the power of persistence and momentum, and we realize that success doesn't come from sudden bursts of activity, but from a sustained, deliberate effort over time. Greatness doesn't come from one grand action, but from small daily steps that build up over time. Keep showing up, keep putting in the work, and keep pushing forward. Consistency is the secret ingredient to every success story. So remember these and watch how you transform. Thank you.